Who is a celebrity you used to admire, but no longer do, and why? Amazing Saturn said. I grew up in an era where Bill Cosby was the wholesome, upright family comedian. I listened to his stand-up on cassette tapes for gosh sake. Finding out that he was a scumbag and had been for a long time was sad. Ivasilver8-8 said. My friend went to school with him. I was at uni in Wales. She said it was well known from late teens that he preferred much younger girls, and he was really creepy in general, but once Los Perfects hit the big time, nobody cared anymore. Had another friend from home who absolutely worshipped him. She'd been to loads of gigs, meet and greets, got all the band merch etc. It absolutely tore her apart when it all came out. One of those childhood destroyed moments, I think. K. Macaroni and Cheese said. Kinda not much of a celebrity, but this guy Ryan Haywood from the YouTube channel Achievement Hunter was like my favorite member growing up. He was funny, put on a villain persona a lot, and seemed like a good father. Turns out he was a pedophile who used his fame to convince young fans to sleep with him. Bastard even used his money from his Twitch channel to pay for flights for them and hotel rooms when he told everyone all the money from his Twitch was going to his kids' college funds. Accurate Seaweed 594 said. I remember when that came out, it was like a slow-motion train wreck. Everyone initially thought maybe the photos were faked, or were real but had been hacked. Then the first victim came forward and a lot of people tried to defend it as it was some adult fan, and while an affair is immoral, it happens, and while the whole groupie thing is questionable, it's not exactly new for fandoms etc. But then more details came out and the trickle of victims became a tsunami of evidence of sick perverted actions of that monster. Even more messed up, he tried to making a fucking comeback on Twitch and actually tried to manipulate some of these victims again. Sabinus Romeo said. I was able to take the revelations about Ryan on the chin at first, but man, I'm definitely jaded, but the Me Too era has kinda left me in a state of passive anticipation when it comes to Malay celebs. It was seeing and thinking about the reactions from the rest of the team that ended up really getting to me. Aside from the fact it's disgusting, selfish actions genuinely put their livelihoods and everything they worked for at risk. I can't imagine the pain and anger you would feel discovering someone you thought was a long-time trusted friend and colleague was an abusive creep who had used the amazing, cool things you built together as a means to groom vulnerable young women and take advantage of them. Years of work, and memories, and life goals achieved together tainted forever because one stupid horny fuck couldn't keep his frankly unimpressive dick in his pants. The video with Jack barely able to keep it together fucking hurt to watch, man. It was like seeing your dad cry for the first time. Janelle 2012 said. Oof, here's a recent one. I just lost my respect for a celebrity the past few weeks, Chris Wu. As someone who really admired his English and Mandarin music, plus the acting roles he's been in, I always saw him as a strong and brave person for the stuff he went through. He used to be in a pop group, for instance, and from what we know, not only was he discriminated against and paid less for being Chinese, but it was once leaked that he was suffering myocarditis, basically implying he could have a heart attack anytime. The company didn't care and he left, which I thought was good for his health despite the hate he got. Now, recently, it's been revealed that he's been drugging and raping many underage girls, including one at the age of 13. China has deleted many of his public accounts and he is now in custody. He is such a vile, disgusting person and I am so ashamed to have looked up to him. I hope the victims get the care and peace they need, and I hope justice is served. Green at 939 said. Mario Lopez. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and there is a move called Neon Belly which is exactly what it sounds like. Typically when you're training, you don't go full force because it's an asshole move, especially when you're training. Well, Mario was at my gym one day and he decided to go full force on me and I heard some snap, crackle and pop sounds coming from my ribs which led to my rolling around on the floor for a bit. He never checked on me or apologized for doing that. It takes a special kind of human to lack that much empathy to completely ignore someone writhing in pain that you clearly inflicted. Ever since then I can physically feel my blood pressure rise whenever I see Extra or Access Hollywood or whatever crappy show he hosts. A Pink Nightmare said. He has also started a cult on an island near Croatia or around there somewhere. His followers call him Prophet. He's also a pedo who seeks out underage girls and acts out rape fantasies. He's disgusting. Link about Jared Leto's creepiness. Edit. Changed the name of the link to something less creepy sounding. Kitty Kale said, I'm not big on real celebs, but I've seen some people say internet celebrities, so for me it was Ryan Haywood from Achievement Hunter. I thought he was a really funny guy and was just the do-it-all dead guy who had a morbid sense of humor and drank Diet Coke. Finding out he was taking advantage of his fans, some underage, and using money donated to him on stream meant for his kids' college fund to meet up with some of those girls and cheat on his wife was just terrible. I feel so bad for his victims and the people who thought they knew him. Schlag96 said, James Corden. I used to think his self-deprecating style and his ingenuity with comedy in the carpool karaoke idea were great. Then I saw story after story from fan encounters where he is a complete and utter douche. Now that I know he's a fake, his shtick is unwatchable. Edit. As one responder pointed out, I forgot about the time he played the question game with Jimmy Kimmel and couldn't name two of his own cameramen. Edit 2. Apparently, carpool karaoke was ripped off from somewhere else, and he's not even really driving. So he's gone from douche to hack fake douche. LOL. Edit 2.1. As some users who have pointed out, it's safer to film with a driving rig, so I won't hold that against him. He's back to just a hack douche. Adonis said, Jeffree Star. I used to think he was really cool. He was super nice when I met him, for being self-made, not tolerating the haters, and his whole message about being yourself was so appealing to me. Then I found out about all the stuff he's allegedly done, combined with how he doesn't take any accountability and shifts the blame around, ruined him for me. Chezit said, I saw Mitch 3 months before he passed. One of the funniest performances I've ever seen. The PA system in the right side of the balcony flaked out and people started yelling, we can't hear you. MH, you can't hear me? Crowd, new. MH, you fucking liars. He then spent about 30 minutes riffing about random shit. None of his real material. At one point he was laying down on the stage looking up at the stage lights. He says something like, sometimes I wish these lights were my audience. Wait, no don't. They would never laugh. As somebody who had heard most of his material, this break from the norm was really cool and hilarious insight to his thought process for building jokes. Yunan Monster said, Ellen DeGeneres. I thought she was really wholesome, and watching her show used to make me feel warm and fuzzy, but then I started getting really soul-leeching sort of vibes from her, and now it just feels like she's using people. I'm sure it's always been like that. I mean, she's there to be paid to entertain people, after all. I'm sorry I don't have concrete examples, but I get real psychic vampire vibes from her. A cute like Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows. Johnstipable said, so 3 years ago I went on a tour of WB Studio Lot. Our guide said she had a treat for us. We were going to visit the Ellen show set, but we had to be quick, because Ellen gets really upset with the guides if they're there when she's there. At the time I was like, no, not Ellen, you're just saying that to make us feel that the experience was something super special privilege that you were doing for us. Not Ellen, benevolent every person who became a millionaire. She would be super stoked to see fans. Not that I was a fan myself, but you couldn't really escape Ellen in 2018, even if you tried. Later on, when all news broke about how abusive she was towards staff in general, I thought of her absolutely reaming out guides for just trying to brighten fans' day, and doubtless I was like, on this tracks. Gecko090 said, a particular thing that stood out to me, even if I missed so many other red flags, was her startle pranking when she did it to Taylor Swift. Ellen is hiding in Swift's dressing room and jumps out and screams when she comes in. Swift rolls her ankle and falls to the floor and looks genuinely scared for a moment. And considering she gets stalked by dangerous people, it seemed extra cruel to do this in her dressing room, a place she should feel safe. Berserk2 said, there was a compilation floating around, of all THS times Ellen scared her, and every time she looks genuinely scared, but the more you see, the more pissed off she seems after she realizes what's happened. It ended with her saying something like, you know, I don't like this, really angrily, and then you see her take a beat, realize there are cameras around, and give Ellen a really fake hug. LOL. Ellen's such a dick for continuing to do that to someone who clearly didn't like it just because she got such a huge reaction out of her. Austinio Forza said, I've never liked Ellen, and I could never really put into words why I wasn't a fan, and everyone in my wider group of friends thought that I was a moron for not liking her. The way she carried herself, talking over the people that she interviewed, her sense of humor, everything just didn't jive with me. Then it came to light that she was a narcissistic piece of shit and an awful boss, coupled with her shit apology that is I'm doing this for the PR, I don't actually feel bad, and I felt so vindicated. It was actually brought up at a get-together some time ago how they thought that I just didn't like her for made-up reasons, but they had come to agree with me. Feels nice to hate as a group, you know, to feel accepted? Ashlug19 said. Yeah, he also doesn't think that men can be abused in a relationship. He once told an abused Malay guest that if his girlfriend was beating him that he was supposed to either take it or walk away. He also told the same guest that he must have been the one starting the abuse because there was no way his petite frail girlfriend could hit him hard enough to be abusing him even though there were pictures of him with injuries from her. When the guy got tired of being mocked by Dr. Phil and laughed at by the audience, he tried to leave midway through the show and Dr. Phil threatened to put him in jail because the abusive girlfriend had proof of the boyfriend's temper. It was pictures of a broken thermostat and a couple other items that could have been either broken by her or already broken when they arrived. Fire Noodles said. Serious, is there anyone who has survived being one of Disney's child stars without becoming a twisted adult? All the names I can think of grew up into monsters, died, or ended up warped and pitiable. Christy Carlson Romano, Kim Possible, even Stevens, seems to be happily married with kids. Had a brief stint with substance abuse but has been sober for 5 years. Brenda Song, Wendy Wu, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, has a clothing line, still acts, and J.S. married to freaking Macaulay Culkin. Chaotic Forking Good said. Jennifer Lopez. Many years ago, a friend of mine in Houston waited on her and her entourage at a very nice restaurant. She demanded that the place's very starstruck manager go to the store and get the kind of bottled water she liked, because she wasn't doing that tap bullshit and they didn't carry the kind she liked. She and her people needled the hell out of my friend until the manager got back from the store with it, and then complained when it wasn't served cold, even though he of course brought glasses of ice with it. She ran my friend ragged, and laughed the whole time. Bitched and called him names at every opportunity. We were both servers at that point, and I'd gone to his restaurant and asked for him at times, hey, if you're gonna tip someone, might as well keep it in the family, so I know he was damned good at what he did. I saw how he treated all his tables. He loved his job and did his best at all times. She and her friends stiffed him. 0 tip. After camping out at that table, in that private room that was given just to her and nobody else, for 3 hours. Just because she could. I never liked her after that. I'm just Jenny from the block my ass. Butchie Boy said. Morrissey. I related to his music in a pretty big way as he seemed to embrace being the weird outsider who didn't relate so much to traditional roles and behavior. He was funny, bookish, and seemed custom-made for outcasts and underdogs. But he grew into a bitter old racist xenophobe who can't stop talking horrible shit that goes completely against my values, and what I'm willing to tolerate in another human being. So Morrissey can eat the poo-poo. Mad John Finn said. Marilyn Manson because of his horrifying abuse of women, including a disabled woman. This was long before it all came out, as he literally put it in his autobiography. Some of his bandmates, too. Stephen Beer, Madonna Wayne Gacy Pogo, even managed to piss me off himself. I asked him about the cost of touring visas for the US compared to similar visas bands from the US required to tour here, as my band were planning on going over there. His dumbass saw this as a question about his personal finances, and decided that disabled people shouldn't be allowed to play shows, so I was obviously faking my disability, again. He blocked me, then got his sycophantic fans to spam me with hate. The next day, my claim for personal independence payment, money to pay for the costs of my disability, was approved. Because I'm disabled. I have a degenerative spinal disease and nerve damage that's caused severe weakness and pain in my left side. I can barely walk down the street, even with a crutch. I say a crutch because my left arm is too weak to use a second crutch. Fuck you, Pogo. Scott Daisy Berkowitz, however, was ridiculed in Manson's book for being the only decent human being in that band. He was one of the best friends I've ever had and I miss him every day. Wheeler BC said. Ryan Adams. He used to be one of my favorite artists of all time. Couldn't even tell you how many times I've seen him, how much merch I own, how large of a percentage of my record collection his shit takes up. I even have a tattoo from Cold Roses on my arm. Just a bummer reminder every day. I've been saving to get it removed, but then COVID hit, I lost my job and had to spend that money on rent and bills. The way he exploited women is just awful. To think that folks gave up on their dreams rather than deal with his BS is heartbreaking on many levels. There's obviously no making up for the things he did to Mandy Moore or Phoebe Bridgers, among others, but to hear he hasn't privately apologized just adds to the disappointment. He just keeps doubling down on woe is me bullshit rather than being accountable and working towards some semblance of atonement. Just all around sucks. Also, Phoebe Bridgers should have won Album of the Year at the Grammys. Edit, thanks for the gold. Evocative Enigma said, Bob Ross was a boss. He was very upfront about having issues with anger when he was an Air Force drill instructor. I was the guy who makes you scrub the latrine, the guy who makes you make your bed, the guy who screams at you for being late to work. The job requires you to be a mean, tough person. And I was fed up with it. I promised myself that if I ever got away from it, it wasn't going to be that way anymore. He had my deepest respect for getting away from a job that he knew was ruining him and made a life goal to live peacefully. This just made me admire him all the more when I first learned about his past. Red Western said, I remember reading an article about her relationship with Maddie Ziegler, and frankly it felt a little off. Like, even if there was nothing untoward going on, it was, and probably still is, an extremely unhealthy and inappropriate relationship. This was a woman in her late 30s, and a very well-known music artist, having an underage girl, and an aspiring dancer, musician and actress, who wasn't her daughter, over to her house for sleepovers, and yet Maddie's mother almost seemed to take pride in it. I'm sorry, but I just don't find that acceptable. I'm definitely not saying that anything untoward was happening in that relationship, but I would also not be surprised if there was. Zerk said. Same here times a million. I've said it in the Manson sub several times now and get hated on, but I was a hardcore Mansonite most of my life, since like 95. I've met him once and the last time I saw them he tried pulling me on stage because he recognized my Spooky Kids shirt that Twiggy had pointed out to him. Manson memorabilia is the only thing I've ever collected and I've spent thousands and have a ton of really old signed stuff. The majority of my wardrobe, still, is Manson shirts, amongst many others. He was just my thing. That's all over now. I don't listen to him, I don't wear his shirts, and I'm just moving on now. It's made getting older an even more bitter time for me than it probably should be. All your heroes end up scumbags or dead. What you thought mattered doesn't. And he's just not the person he was. I can't do it anymore. It fucking sucks, and I hate it. But I also won't lie to myself or subvert my own morality. There's Sabine Yohart said. Quentin Tarantino. I just heard his interview on the Howard Stern show, and he was defending Roman Polanski in the worst ways, saying she wanted it, she bragged about it, etc. The girl never wanted it or asked for it, and Polanski was 43 while she was 13. As disgusting as Howard and his crew can be at times, they were clearly in horror cause they gave him chance after chance to realize how fucked up his line of thinking was, but he wasn't having it. Edit. The whole thing with Roman Polanski starts at 8:22. https://yahoo.be/g3ehmh-zt2k. This is as bad as it gets. TW for anyone who suffered abuse. Jim105 said. William Shatner. I was never a huge fan, but I thought he was okay until he told a story during a local Comic-Con about how he lied about driving in the desert highway, got into an accident, and ended up following a man wearing white on a motorcycle. That part was not the worst part. He admitted he lied because it was an easy paycheck. The worst part is they use his made-up story to recreate for a short film. The stunt actor that was on the motorcycle ended up in a real severe accident and ended up paralyzed. Cattle DT said. He lied about driving in the desert highway. He got into an accident, while driving on that desert highway, who knows? He followed a man wearing white on a motorcycle. Lying about driving in the desert presumably got him an easy paycheck. Somebody used his lie about driving in the desert to make a short film. During the filming of that short film, the stunt motorcyclist got into an accident and was paralyzed. Part 3 of the story is really interesting. It's mysterious. It feels like the man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. but that line is so ambiguous. Is it Shatner wearing white on a motorcycle, and he follows a man? Is it Shatner on a motorcycle, following a man in white? Is it Shatner following a man that is riding a motorcycle, and that man is also wearing white? Elisa714 said, I used to respect Chrissy Teigen for being real as a celebrity, but I found out about the cruel DMs she had been sending to Courtney Stodden, the child whose parents basically sold them to an older man who paid for a bunch of cosmetic surgery and kept Courtney drugged up. Chrissy verbally harassed Courtney, telling them to kill themselves repeatedly, while Courtney was being sexually traumatized by their 51-year-old husband. Edited for pronoun accuracy. EEO317 said, Gandhi. People act like he was a perfect saint who fixed the world and is the model of how every person should act, when in reality he wasn't. He a racist and wrote that Europeans were civilized while African people were uncivilized and very dirty. There was the infamous story where he slept naked next to other naked girls to test his celibacy, but the girl he slept naked next was his grandniece. She was underage and he was in his 70s. https://www.npr.org/2019/020/766083651/Gandhi-is-deeply-revered-but-his-shadow-under-scrutiny. Oh, and my favorite, when his wife Kasturba caught pneumonia and doctors told him she could be saved if they gave her penicillin, Gandhi refused and said that he wouldn't allow an alien medicine to be injected in her because of his beliefs, and so she died. That would be understandable and respectable if it was truly because of his beliefs, but he's a huge fucking hypocrite because shortly after she died he got malaria and allowed doctors to treat him with injected medicine and then he had an appendectomy. https://www.thecrimson.com/article/1983/3/7/the-truth-about-Gandhi-pbtbhe-movie/ I get it. The guy was human with human hang-ups and flaws, but I'm tired of him being put up on a pedestal as a perfect being who never did anything wrong and that everyone should be just like. Plus it's hard to idolize or strive to be like someone who let his own wife die a completely preventable death and then disowned his oldest son for wanting to get married. Rak King 21 said, I was an Elon Musk fan. Mass Effect is one of my favorite franchises, and I saw Elon and SpaceX as a way of achieving something like the future in Mass Effect. Later I learned that he basically just takes all of the fame from the engineers, pumps and dumps crypto, is an idiot, and exploits the fuck out of his workers. He's a garbage human being that should shut up, and leave the companies he is as they have potential beyond his smug face. I still like SpaceX and I think they will probably lead to our future in space exploration, but Elon is on top of my shit list, just like most if not all billionaires and millionaires. Especially the ones that are garbage to the people that made their company what they are today. Ken Hodder said, Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, I wasn't like swimming in his merch or going to concerts, but I kept tabs on new albums and had a lot of his stuff on Spotify. Till I found out he stabbed 17 cats to death while on a bender, and bragged about shooting whatever animal came into his yard on lockdown. Cats, birds. Fuck him. Edit. Apparently it was debunked about the 17 cat stabbing. However, he still shoots the ones in his yard, and it's been confirmed he tried to kill Sharon on a bender. She had to hit a panic button for the cops to come get him. Lion said, her movie, Music, upset many people by casting a neurotypical actor in the role of an autistic girl, especially considering the fact that her behavior was seen as over-the-top and almost a parody of autistic people rather than a true representation. But the main backlash was from the use of restraints against a character to calm her down, a widely condemned practice which has resulted in the traumatization and deaths of multiple neurodivergent people. Sia later apologized, saying she had listened to the wrong people and had since agreed to cut out the more troublesome scenes in later releases. Note that I have not seen the movie or heard of it before now, this is just what I learned from a quick search. Monty Kearns said, until I found out he allegedly raped Corey Haim on the set of a movie they were filming when Corey was only 13 years old. I think that was generally proven not true and Sheen was defended by Haim's mother, for whatever that's worth. Dominic Brascia, one of the actors who accused Sheen, turned out to be one of the abusers, so that also makes it hard to determine if he was telling the truth or deflecting. There's plenty to dislike about Charlie Sheen, but I feel like there's so much reasonable doubt with the Haim thing that I can't hate him for it until something more definitive were to come out.